Wonderful. We'll bring the meeting back to order. And it looks like we've got everyone here. Thank you for that. We are back online, technical difficulties. Next, we will move into open microphone. Bear with me as I flipped to the different page. Open microphone is an opportunity, thank you for settling in, for a member of the public to express his or her feedback on an issue pertaining to the town. Open microphone is limited to a maximum of 15 minutes, and each speaker is limited to a maximum of 5 minutes. After the presentation, members of council will ask only questions of clarification. You will not receive a response or feedback back from council immediately after your presentation. Items that require response will be brought forward to a future date. And we do have 3 spots signed up tonight for open microphones, starting with Mr. Brox. Welcome.
Thank you.
And you are a seasoned attendee. You'll hear all the beeps, and then we're happy to hear from you after.
My name is Greg Brox.
This way. There's
I'm
more.
with Melcor Developments. Tonight I'm here to talk about the sanitary trunk item that's later on the agenda. You'll have the opportunity to give staff a recommendation or your support to award that tender. I'm suggesting that now is not the right time to give that support. The town has not secured appropriate working room to efficiently deliver the sanitary trunk project that serves the high school site and the lands south of Memorial Trail. The tender package that you get some details of shows the town is paying, in my estimation, $500,000 more than necessary to build a short section of pipe through Beacon Hill. This trunk will be paid 100% by developers, so it really isn't even a town cost. After seeing the agenda item on Friday, met with Laban to figure out why they were not cooperative. Ironically, nobody from the town has officially asked Laban for working room. So when you're asking administration about the details, that's the specific question you should ask. How does not having working room in Beacon Hill affect the cost of that contract? Administration has gone as far as instructing the consultant employed by the town to not work with Laban. So I'm here today with a simple request, delay awarding this tender until the town has in writing the permission to use appropriate working room to efficiently construct this infrastructure on our behalf. I'm deeply concerned that staff in charge of delivering these projects were not able to identify this issue ahead of time, rectify it, and inform impacted parties. After my meeting with Laban Homes, as the developer and the owner of land in Beacon Hill, they advised that the pieces of this puzzle of how it's connected to Laban goes back to the deputy fire chief. And I hate to throw anybody under the bus, but this is about as petty as it gets. Leadership at this town has allowed the deputy fire chief to win a very small argument with Laban at the expense of a very costly request for working easement.
Sorry, Ms. Phelps.
I think that's an outside issue that, and being that it's a staff concern, maybe we can talk about it outside of this, but I think there's other information on that that we as staff are aware of as well.
For sure. So,
sorry.
I feel it's the town's job to not allow issues like this impact the cost of projects. Off-site levy projects are built on behalf of developers. We're thankful that the town is staying ahead of development with this type of infrastructure, but we lose trust that the town has our best interests in mind when massive cost overruns are swept under the rug. This $3.2 million budget you are being asked to approve should have come to council with 3 extra numbers. The area that benefits from this sanitary trunk, the cost per hectare from dividing that project by the cost and the area, and the cost per homeowner that will live in that area. This land is already encumbered by nearly $5 million in off-site levy costs for sanitary trunks. Doubling the sanitary basin costs will make this land uneconomical to develop, making it impossible for Melcor to sell the school site to the town. That is the consequences of the decision tonight. And I actually had a minute to spare. Questions?
Thank you. Councillor Mearns.
Can you just explain what working room means? I think I understand, but I just...
Yeah, so the trench is 10 meters deep, 30, I go back, or more than 20 meters wide. When you excavate out, you have to put that dirt somewhere. The tender is arranged so that every scoop of an excavator has to be put into a truck, taken half a mile down the road, and dumped, and then when they backfill, all of that dirt has to be trucked back. That's $500,000 worth of costs.
Thank you. Any other questions, Council? That is all. Thank you very much for your presentation, and
Thank you.
we will continue with some follow-up here. Next, we've got Mona MacArthur. Welcome. Thank you. You saw the drill. You'll hear a number of beeps, and once those are done, if you could start with an introduction, we're happy to hear from you. I mean, you could start, but it will beep in the middle of you, so it's not ideal. Thank you.
My name is Mona MacArthur. I'm a resident here.
Oh, I'm very sorry. If we can just get you, I didn't give this instruction. Turn on the round button on the center of your microphone there. There we are. Thank you.
Thanks. My name is Mona MacArthur. I've been a resident here for 40 years. I've raised 4 kids in this town and owned businesses for many years. I wanted to speak about the tent bylaw issue that's been going around and around for a long time. Something that's sort of been burning in me that I wanted to bring up. I think there's solutions for everybody to this. Many years ago, when I was first in business here in the early 2000s, there was a tax that was charged by the town, a BRZ tax. It was a business revitalization zone tax. And everyone north of the tracks paid that tax based on your square footage. I had a salon downtown and I paid about $600 or $700 a year, which was a pretty good chunk for a small business. It was then deemed a few years into that it was an illegal tax and it was shut down. At the time, I think our committee had about $240,000 in the account. And a few of us formed a small committee and were tasked with being asked to figure out what to do with the money. So the biggest suggestion we had, and I can't remember all of them, but the one that I pushed for was to put an amphitheater down on the pier so we could bring music and art down to that area. Over the years, it never happened, and I'm not really sure whatever happened with the money, but I see an issue with our culture being pushed out down, on our lakefront, which we've talked about the hookah pipes, we've talked about the hibachis with the hot coals, and now here are the wall tents that are encroaching on our areas. I've watched a jazz festival fizzle out, and now we've got a Nashville country music group coming through with country music again inside of venues, and probably a lot of kids won't be able to access that or see any of it. And I think that we have, done a disservice to our culture by not representing our culture on our lakefront. It's always puzzled me why we haven't brought concerts and arts and entertainment down there. I've been told by people from other places that the culture is not what they were expecting when they came to town or brought visitors here and stuff. I just think that, first of all, putting people in a small area and letting them set up tents and things like that is colonizing people, and I think it's archaic, and I don't think that it's the right solution to this. I think I would like to see more things like that come from the people that paid the taxes and built this town. Country music, jazz festivals, arts and entertainment down on our lake shore. And I believe we've failed the community to celebrate that. And I just like to bring that up, that I think it's a solution to some of this, or may help the situation, and I'm for a total ban on the wall tents. That is where I stand. And I just wanted to bring that up with a suggestion, as well as my feelings on where we're going with that, and thank you for your time and allowing me to speak.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor, do we have any questions? Seeing none. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And our final open mic presentation is a joint presentation between Victoria Paderni and Rod McWilliams. Welcome.
He was going to speak separately.
We do only have the one additional spot, so I would encourage you both to join together. I've got you down in the same spot on the sheet,
Yeah.
sorry. Excellent, you know the drill. If you can just wait for the buzzer, then we're happy to hear from you.
Victoria Paderni. If the new code of conduct legislation was underway, I would be taking that step to address the situation that took place 2 weeks ago. I sat through the council meeting and listened to all council debate tents on the beach. At no point did Mayor Hanson or Jas Payne clarify that they were only discussing canopies, not tents. Teej was going into depth about tents and the reason not to use them, along with some of the other council members. Those would have been the opportune times to explain to the rest of council that they were in fact only discussing canopies. Therefore, the online statement by Mayor Hanson and the written reply that was shared with me and sent out to 75 residents, implying that Teej and I were lying, is absolutely false, and it's not okay for council to represent themselves that way. While I appreciate the steps taken regarding council application to remove all tents, etc., from the beaches all along Lakeshore, considering that council has an ongoing problem, and in my opinion, by allowing variances for tents is only creating a bigger problem. Many people responded to my online post regarding tents, canopies, etc. 98% are not in support of any sort of tent or barbecue. I hope the council focuses on the wants of the taxpayer, the majority, and stops placing the tourist wants and needs above their citizens. You must consider the negative impact to the homeowners that border Centennial Park, the environmental impact to the park itself, the lack of bathrooms, the fact that the park dynamic will be changed drastically. With canopies scattered throughout the park, there will be no more kite flying, soccer games, frisbee, etc. Things that I see taking place every weekend, every summer as a resident of Lakeshore Drive. That's it. Go ahead, Rod.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Rod McWilliam, resident of town here. Got quite a bit of investment on Lakeshore Drive, and I just feel that the tents and like whatever, I think the tents are the tents, but I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we haven't resolved the first problem first, Megan, where we discussed moving everything off the main beach. We haven't proven that right now. It's not proven that we've moved it. It's not proven that we've done anything with it until I guess we'll discuss it Tuesday and figure out what happened this weekend as far as what goes on as tents and everything else. So, I mean, you want to move one problem to possibly another problem, and we haven't resolved the first problem. Barbecues, come on, you guys, like, who pays all the taxes in town? You know, they bring more barbecues here, who suffers? The guys that pay the taxes all winter trying to make a living selling hamburgers and hot dogs and steak sandwiches, everything else that creates their business year round. And you want to take away the best 3 months, oh, let's bring in more barbecues. I don't think that makes sense. And as far as, what else was there I was going to bring up? Washrooms that we discussed, Megan, as far as along the beach. We don't have enough washrooms now, and you want to move, you know, we're not lessening the people that are going to be on the beach. We're creating more with the tents or whatever, moving everybody up there. And there's not enough room up there. If you guys even walk down there tonight on a nice night, you'll see that there isn't enough, you know, there's a nice amount of room. People are playing catch, frisbee. Sunday afternoon, you can't move there anyhow without, and then all of a sudden create a bunch of tents or whatever you guys want to do. sunshade or whatever. There just isn't enough room, and we're not ready for the washroom issue again. You know, I mean, we discussed, Megan, putting washrooms on the beach, a pink one and a blue one, and just spread them out a little bit so everybody stays sane. But we haven't done that yet, and it's the same story. We don't have enough washrooms. And what we should do is shrink it down and grow into it, not create another problem up the street by me where, you know, what's going to happen? They'll go in the alley, they'll go everywhere they feel like they're going to go. The new Canadians need training as far as washrooms go. And Sylvan Lake isn't a place for it, so thank you.
Council, do we have any questions? Seeing none, thank you.
No? Okay, thank you.
Thanks. All right, next we will move along to adoption of the agenda. Ms. Phillips, do we have any additions?
Good afternoon. Yes, I have one addition to the agenda, request to attend a meeting electronically. If we could add it to the consent agenda, if council would like to add it to consent, for Councillor Iwanicki to attend virtually tonight and again potentially on the 19th. Okay. For work purposes, or not work, yeah, work purposes.
Thank you.
Work demand. Sorry.
Council, would someone like to make a motion to adopt the agenda? Councillor Payne. The amended or?
Yeah, we'll move the amended agenda.
Excellent. And that would go under consent, I would assume. We've got a motion on the floor by Councillor Payne. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, next we will move along to consent agenda. Consent agenda is an item used to increase meeting efficiency. Any item marked with an asterisk has been recommended by administration to be included in the consent agenda. But council asks if you want to have any extensive question or discussions on any items. We'll do that before the consent agenda motion is being made. So we'll start with that. Council, is there any items you'd like to remove from consent? Seeing none, would someone like to make the motion for the consent agenda? Oh, Councillor Iwanicki. I wasn't sure if you'd be on it virtually, but
I'm still going to do my consent agenda job from Regina. Yeah, so I move that, just to be clear, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I didn't check my microphone before. That the 2026-04-27 regular meeting of council meeting minutes be approved as presented. That the 2026-04-21 governance and priorities meeting minutes of council meeting minutes be approved as presented. That council improves the investment attraction policy number L002011A. That the investment attraction policy number L002011 is hereby rescinded as presented in report AIR 1366. That council approve first reading of the traffic safety bylaw 1952-2026 as presented in report AIR 1404. And that council approve remote attendance of Councillor Joe Iwanicki for tonight's meeting and potentially the May 19th, 2026.
Thank you. Council, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Next, we'll move along to delegation by the Tourism Development Committee. Welcome to some familiar faces. Now, I will note, our timer on the wall can only be set for 5 minutes, so you'll just hear a foam timer being set. When you hear that, that is the end of your time. It's not someone who left their phone off of silent. So with that, we're happy to hear from you.
Okay, good afternoon, Mayor and Council, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm here with Charlie Evers, Chairman of the Tourism Development Board, of which I am also a business owner representative on that board. We are here today in support of a balanced, practical decisions that will maintain our reputation as a friendly, inclusive visitor destination point. Sylvan Lake, as we know, is vibrant and has been the only accessible lakefront municipality center in the center of one of the busiest, most stable financial corridors, not only in the province, but in the nation. And as time marches on, as in life, our community has changed, and just as it has in the past, so has our visitor base. We're no longer just a destination for young day trippers. In addition to our local Central Alberta day guests, we are seeing multi-generational families that include grandparents, parents, young children, and infants. The recent economic impact study of tourism in Central Alberta, specifically Sylvan Lake, confirms that what we have known for generations, tourism is a major impact on our economy. Our tourism sector accounts for 17% employment, significantly higher than 11% provincial average. And we are welcoming well over 650,000 visitors per year. Almost every community would die to have that problem. We know our economic viability is because of this industry, and we do not want to detract visitors from the coming. Our committee is concerned about our community's negative reputation over the past year and a half because of continued layered decision regarding limited sun structure options, increased bylaw enforcement, and multi-year visitor paid parking increases. Social media posts are starting to show the negative responses, especially in our neighboring Central Alberta population base. Tonight, however, we are asking Council not only to support the motion at hand, but consider either other appropriate sunshade options for the immediate beach area. Modern technology has come up with some very appropriate small open-faced structures for confined areas. We believe these shade structures are not a nuisance, but rather they are very much health protection from sun and heat, accessibility support for the very young and the elderly. And they should, as I said before, and they should not only be allowed in Centennial Park, but Lakefront Park as well. They're sun structures. That's what they are, and it's an open area. I'll discuss that later. There is also rhetoric suggesting that these structures are being used for inappropriate behavior. Respectively, on the busiest days in a heavily family-dominated environment, anything of the sort would be highly unusual and highly unlikely. Hence, there is no clear evidence that this is happening. We believe it to just be common hearsay, and we would question how many concerns and/or calls to service enforcement has had over the past 5 years related to these accusations. We are the largest, most accessible lakefront municipality in the province, and for generation after generation, real Lakers have been proud stewards of this gem for hundreds and hundreds of thousands of visitors that have come to enjoy our beautiful town. That is our past, and hopefully that is our future. Okay? Now, I would like to add some personal thoughts to all this that I have shared with the committee, but also with the public in general. For 52 years, the summer and the visitors here has been and still is a big part of my lifeblood. I have been watching closely that beach for 52 years, every weekend, all summer long, and it's vital to the visitors that I attract. But basically, managing the arena for 40 years, in the heart of a growing town, all the while raising a family, community is equally been my lifeblood. What I'm worried about is what we seem to be addressing up until now really pertains to the 22 to 28 nice weather weekend and holiday times when, for generation after generation, crowds have been at their peak. Hence, the negative narratives regarding the cost of cleanup, increased bylaw enforcement, increased visitor paid parking, and sun structure mitigation is targeted for these times. My concern is these rules and costs are also in effect from Monday to Thursday, which on any given week are not crowded days all summer long. What about the two moms and their kids from Red Deer who want to come to the lake, be near the beach and playground, maybe get some ice cream, buy a floaty, but aren't allowed adequate sun structure mitigation and have to pay $50 to park from 1 to 4 p.m. Or closer to my personal situation, the 4 families who come from Whitehorse to come to the hockey camp, have 5 kids in the camp all day, but also have 6 other siblings that are here to enjoy our lakefront community. They have spent considerably $15,000 on camp, accommodation, groceries, souvenirs, and travel to enjoy 5.5 days or more in our town. But to avoid the $50 parking fee, have to pack up all their beach attire and buy a wagon, park at the next door center, and walk to siblings to do the same as the 2 mothers from Red Deer. Council, knowing the position you are in, and to administer this situation that is virtually impossible to separate, I know what the majority of you are trying to do is find a balance between cost recovery and visitor appreciation. I have all the faith in the world that you will make the right decision, and you also will continue to monitor the effects of these decisions. A little history of Lakeshore Drive and what happened. In the mid-90s, we were a party town. We became known as a party town. We needed to make steps to it, and the leaders of the day had to make some tough decisions, enhanced policing, and then came the opportunity to redo Lakeshore Drive into the one of the world-class Lakeshore Drives that there is. And with that, with the rerouting of Lakeshore Drive, there became Centennial Park, which was a scruffy park with 2 shelters and a bush and whatnot. Had to go across the lake, the road to get to the lake with little kids, was dangerous. When that got brought into the park, onto the beach, that created a space. And I was on council when they decided what we were going to do with that space, and they put options of basketball courts and volleyball courts. And what was decided was a passive play area with kitchens and barbecue tables and spaces for picnic area. And that was to encourage families to come. And it worked immediately. Immediately. People who hadn't ever come to Sylvan Lake could come to Sylvan Lake and find a place for large families to have large gatherings, and that's what happened. Now, unintended consequences has made us make some changes, and I think we were doing it. Personally, I think the changes that we had last year were ample, especially with the added beach, but that's not my decision. Your decision is at hand, and I have all the faith in the world that you will make the right decision for Lakers and for the economic benefit of tourism. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Council, do we have any questions? Seeing none, I'll thank you for your, Councillor Johannesson.
Just to be clear, because clearly this council administration has not been clear, you are saying in this, I'm reading it right now, at a recent meeting, the committee passed a motion to recommend that tents be permitted within designated areas of Centennial Park. This recommendation is rooted for our ongoing efforts to enhance Sylvan's Lake appeal. Allowing tents in the park would support families in a comfortable spending. So to be extremely clear, are we talking about tents or are we talking about canopies? And what is the difference?
Sun mitigation structures.
What is that?
Something that mitigates the sun.
We need, so.
It's pretty simple, but
I don't think it is.
Debate. We are here to put our concerns of the tourism.
Mr. Parsons, it says tents.
I'm sorry, I'll just go to a point of order here and say that we can ask questions for clarification of presentations, but of course we're not here to debate. I'm trying to clarify
if what they're talking about, because we already had this problem. It says tents in that letter, and he's saying sun mitigation structures. So tents, canopies, sun mitigation structures, we need to be clear. Definitions matter.
Mr. Everest.
I think tent, sun mitigation, sun block, sun structure, it's all yeah, it's all the same thing, essentially. Okay, then maybe it is worded wrong, but I think it's just sun mitigation or sunshade. But if you have a sunshade that has a wall on it, then is it called a tent? Like, I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, okay, I think that proved.
So if you have a sun with sides on it, is that called a tent?
Yeah.
Excuse me, sorry. We do have to keep order within this meeting, and we don't allow comment from the gallery.
My point being is tent, sun structure, sunshade, they're probably all one of the same.
Thank you. I think you proved mine and Victoria's point. Thanks.
Do we have any additional questions, council? Seeing none, thank you. Appreciate your presentation. Next, we will move into our public hearing tonight. The purpose of this hearing is for, and I'll just note, rather than confuse and having both of the sign-up sheets out previously, we've now added the public hearing sign-up sheet just now. So if you're here for the public hearing, after you speak, please take the time to note your information so that we can have it clear for the minutes, but we didn't have that out there ahead of time. So the purpose of this hearing is for council to receive public input regarding the proposed bylaw 1950-2026, being a bylaw to amend the town's land use bylaw 1695-2015. This hearing was advertised in the Sylvan Lake News on April 23rd and 30th, 2026. I now declare the public hearing open. First, I'll invite town administration to give us some background on the proposed changes. Ms. Devlin.
Good evening, council. Thank you, your worship. Bylaw 1950-2026 is a bylaw to amend the town's land use bylaw 1695-2015 to redesignate Lot 31, Block T, Plan 7833AT, which is addressed as 4620 46th Street, from Manufactured Home District, or R4, to Medium Density Residential District, or R2. The intent of this redesignation is to support the future consolidation with the parcel to the north, which is home to the Seventh-day Adventist Church, to accommodate a new location for the food bank.
That's great. Here's how tonight's hearing will work. Anyone who wants to speak will have up to 5 minutes. Each person will speak only once. We'll hear from people first in this order. First, those in support, then those opposed, then anyone else who feels affected by the bylaw. After that, we can ask administration for follow-up comments if required. Council may ask questions after each presentation, but only for clarification. There will be no cross-examining, debating, or questions from the audience. Once the hearing is closed, council cannot accept any more comments, written or verbal. Before we hear from anyone in attendance, I'll ask administration to read in any written comments ahead of time.
Your worship, we received one set of comments that I'll read for council. To all parties concerned, I am the owner of the property directly to the south of the property being considered for rezoning and consolidation with the church lot. It is my understanding that the Seventh-day Adventist Church group wishes to turn this property into a local food bank for Sylvan Lake. This is a noble and good cause to help feed the less fortunate, and I applaud their willingness to spend their time and resources for this. However, as someone directly next to the proposed change, I am left with several questions about the church group's plans and what their vision is for the existing mobile home. As of this time, no one has contacted us, besides the town, to discuss the proposal and impact of the rezoning. For instance, will the vehicle traffic be increased? Will new construction be involved? What steps will they take to ensure minimal disturbance to other property owners, and will this affect property prices or quality of life of neighboring properties? Currently, our building is a licensed STAR property, and depending on how the church proceeds, it could change our business. Also, it may make selling our property in the future more difficult. Again, I'm hoping for others. I'm all for helping others and have tried to do that throughout my life, so I understand them wanting to do this. But unless these questions are answered and/or disturbances are minimized, I have strong reservations about this. After all, they have made alterations to their property in the past, such as when they added lot lighting that flooded into our home and yard without a thought to us. When I brought this up, they did make changes to address the problem fairly quickly, but we were not a thought beforehand. So hopefully this will not be a repeat of that in any way, and there can be a good compromise. Thank you, John Maygard.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from anyone who is in attendance and in support of Bylaw 1950-2026. Anyone who's here in support? Great. We'll now hear from anyone who is opposed to the bylaw. And one more call for anyone who is in opposition. Finally, is there anyone else who feels they are affected by this bylaw who wishes to speak? Last call, is there anyone else in attendance who'd like to comment? Seeing none, I declare that this public hearing is now closed. As a reminder, council will not accept any more comments on this bylaw now that the hearing is closed. Please note that I don't need to read that since there was not any, there was not any comments that were brought forward. Thank you. Next, we will move along to this bylaw, Bylaw 1950-2026, the redistricting of 4620 46th Street. Ms. Devlin.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is for council to consider granting second and third readings to Bylaw 1950-2026, being a bylaw to amend the land use bylaw to redesignate Lot 31, Block T, Plan 7833AT, which is 4620 46th Street, from Manufactured Home District R4 to Medium Density Residential District R2. The proposed redesignation will support an intended future consolidation of the subject lands with the parcel to the north, which is home to the Seventh-day Adventist Church and is zoned R2. The resulting enlarged church site is intended to accommodate a new location for the food bank, which would be considered an accessory use for the church. Although the current R4 zoning on the parcel would allow for the development of the food bank, consolidating the lots will provide more flexibility for the placement of the building and may include more options to mitigate any conflicts with adjacent parcels. The subject site is located within the Neighborhood Redevelopment Overlay District and is subject to the policies contained within the Neighborhood Redevelopment Strategy. Section 5.3.3 of the strategy supports working collaboratively with landowners to consider the redistricting of R4 parcels to R2 to support redevelopment in the area. At this time, administration respectfully recommends the council grant second and third reading to Bylaw 1950-2026 as presented.
Thank you. We'll start with any questions for administration. Seeing none, would someone like to put forward a motion? Councillor Payne. Oh, sorry. Councillor Awanicki, sorry. You're so small on that screen.
Yeah, I thought making funny faces might move it along. Anyway, yeah, just one quick question, because I read the report and heard what was said. My understanding is, and I just want to be clear on this, is that the church could still build their food bank even if this wasn't rezoned. This just gives them more flexibility and basically where the building can be placed on the lot. Is that correct?
Through the chair to Councillor Awanicki, yes, that is correct. Actually, administration recommended to the church that this might be a more appropriate option to rezone and consolidate first prior to applying for a permit, simply because placing a building on the existing somewhat narrow site gives very limited options and actually has the potential to increase conflicts with the adjacent property owner. Consolidating it allows them to rotate the building in different directions should they choose and provide landscaping buffering in between. So we have not seen a development proposal as of yet, but we will work with them. Our intent is to work with them to make sure it fits the site and the neighborhood.
Thank you. Councillor Ostindi.
Just wondering, other than persuasion, what powers do we have as a town to mandate certain buffering things, like a fence, like hedging, like anything that separates uses?
Through the chair to Councillor Ostindi, through the land use bylaw, we have several provisions that we can require buffering, including, as mentioned, a fence and landscaping to help mitigate that. Again, until we see what they're proposing and where they're proposing to put the building in the parking lot area, we won't know exactly what we'll be able to do, but we do intend, whenever there's a residential use adjacent to a non-residential use, to mitigate those conflicts through the use of screening or buffering to the best of our ability.
Thank you. Additional questions, Council? Councillor Payne.
I move that council grant second reading to bylaw 1950-2026 as presented in AIR 1400, being a bylaw to amend the town's land use bylaw 1695-2015 to redesignate lot 31, Block T, Plan 7833 AT from manufactured home district R4 to medium density residential district R2. And just a note, for those of you who might not remember, but for many, many years, the food bank was actually in the church, and you would access it through the alley. So I think this is a brilliant use of this land. I think it's going to consolidate that effort because, again, a lot of people might not realize that the Seventh-day Adventist group is the one who's been running the food bank for all these years. So it's a very smart use of land.
That's great. Councillor Martins.
Yeah, happy to see that there's this opportunity for them. It's a growing need and concern in the town, and this is great to have it right on their property instead of somewhere different, so it's something I will support.
That's great. Any additional comments? Councillor Ostindi.
Yeah, just reiterating the point that I was interested in to begin with, the expression my dad taught me that many of us know is, fences make good neighbors. And so it's important that we do work with the church as a town to encourage good use. I believe between the two properties currently there is a fence, but I'm not sure if that's the church's fence or the resident's fence. I know the church already owns the land, but I can also remember being inside that actual trailer and mobile home and cleaning up after a flood. I'm surprised it's still standing. So it's in, I'm sure someone has fixed it up if it's being used, but there'll be lots of improvement potential there, and I like the project. And it was just recently I learned through the hub that the Seventh-day Adventist Church was running the food bank, and I congratulate them for the hard work they've done for our community.
That's great. All right, seeing no further hands, we've got a motion by Councillor Payne on the floor. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Does someone have a desire to move to third reading? Councillor Mearns.
Make a motion that council grant third reading to bylaw 1950-2026 as presented in AIR 1400, being a bylaw to amend the town's land use bylaw 1695-2015 to redesignate Lot 31, Block T, Plan 7833 AT from Manufactured Home District R4 to Medium Density Residential District R2.
Excellent. One last opportunity for comment, questions, debate. Seeing none, all those in favor of Councillor Mearns' motion? And opposed? And that is carried unanimously. And Council, I'll just remind, when we have someone online, if you could hold your hands up even longer because of the slight delay there, it just helps us ensure that we've got the counts as they should be. So thank you, that is carried. All right, next we will move along to Mr. Lebsack, who's here to talk to us about the Parks Bylaw 1952-2026. Welcome.
Your Worship and Council. So as you can see in the report there, I'll just start with a little bit of the background discussion. We did bring this at the last meeting, January 20th, we brought this at the January 20th Committee of the Whole discussion and had some discussion around overall parks and summer operations. And then we brought this up at the last meeting with first reading of the Parks Bylaw with the additions, and I'll say, or changes that were proposed. I won't go through them, but listed there. So all of that background is listed there on the first page of my report. Following a lengthy discussion regarding the complete ban on tents or maintaining a section of Centennial Park for no-wall tents or canopy structures, first reading of the bylaw was passed, maintaining a section of Centennial Park for no-wall tents / canopy structures. So what I've provided here was the updated version for second reading is what's attached. So that's some amendments that have made after first reading. Show up in the updated draft version. I've also included a couple of options here. So you can see option 1. We've added the definition of canopy, which means a temporary overhead structure or covering that provides protection or shelter from the elements or provides shade and is supported by 4 poles but has no walls. So that's what we're referring to in this version of the bylaw as a canopy. And then in section 14.1 where it's referenced, we've added in there, so no person shall erect, place or use a tent. We've removed canopy or shelter from there And then down below in the green, you see there, except a canopy will be permitted within the Centennial Park canopy zone attached as Schedule B. So that's one option that we've provided there. The second option just simply states that in section 14.1, no person shall erect, place, or use a tent, canopy, or shelter except for a single pole umbrella along the lakefront, including within the Lighthouse Park, Lakefront Park, Centennial Park, and the departmental miscellaneous lease, which includes the landfill pier. So that option 2 is the total removal of tents or canopies or shelters. So that, again, is the reference to tents. As you'll notice in the next section there, the online discussion also included a lengthy debate regarding the use of barbecues along the lakefront. Thought we would be proactive and bring that forward for council as well. So we've provided a couple of options there. Without going into those, because they aren't recommended as part of the proposed updated parks bylaw, I will just say that really administration's point of view, by providing some options there but not including them, but including option 1, I guess is how I would put it, is that we really, since the removal of charcoal barbecues about 4 years ago, we have not received many calls for service or concerns over the gas barbecues. We do still get, I don't know, a handful or so of charcoal barbecues per summer down there, and when our officers go and approach them and notify them that they're not, charcoal barbecues are not allowed, and they have to remove them from the lakefront, we don't have any objections to that. They do remove them. I don't think in the last 4 years that we've had gas only, I don't think we've ever had a confrontation along the lakefront over charcoal barbecues, but we do have no issues at all with the, from administration's point of view, with the gas barbecues. So that there, I did provide 2 options just in case council wanted to consider barbecues along the lakefront, and those were the only changes or additions that are being proposed as second reading from our discussion at first reading. So as you can see there, I have included, that's the options section, the recommendation that we've approved, or that we've provided there from administration, is that council approve second reading of the Parks Bylaw 1952-2026 to include tenting option 1, being that the added definition of canopy, as read earlier, and the change to section 14.1 as outlined in option 1. And I believe at that I will pass it back to you, Madam Mayor.
Excellent, thank you. We'll start with questions of administration. Councillor Ostindi.
Just wondering about this idea of canopy structures. I get the definition, but I'm also wondering about ropes, spikes, securing them to ground or to structures, other structures like a tree. Are we clear anywhere on the bylaw on that? Is there anything to guide people?
Through the chair, yes, we do have that very clearly defined in the bylaw. I'll continue to look it up exactly what section it is as we talk, but it is clearly defined in the bylaw. And we have noted also that there are many options out there now for weighted structures to go on either umbrella poles or tent legs to weigh them down. Nothing has to be spiked into the ground or tied down at any point anymore.
Follow up from Councillor Ostindi and then Payne.
Yeah, just to be clear, so in our current bylaw, we do not allow spikes. Am I reading that right then, or tie downs?
I believe, I'll confirm the wording, but I believe it's both spikes and nothing is allowed to be tied to a tree or any other structure. Okay. Yeah.
Payne and then Iwanicki.
So in the event of a situation where everything is banned, does that include in the event of a special event? Like if we have something like a Shake the Lake or a concert event, does that mean that with those events, they're not able to have canopies or those structures at all?
No, through the chair, special events that have the specific structure approved as part of the special event are allowed to have them. So every special event has to come in with whatever tents shelters they're going to use. And then if they're approved as part of the special event, then they'd be allowed.
Councillor Iwanicki.
All right, 2 questions. One's pretty basic. It's in regards to staking things down. Would screw-in umbrellas or those umbrellas that need to be sort of like affixed to the ground be permitted? Under the way the bylaw is worded right now?
Through the chair, yes. Our understanding, the way we've worded the bylaw, is that single pole umbrella would be able to be, if you want to call it, screwed into the ground or inserted into the ground, yes.
Okay. And then the second question is, my reading of it, of the way it's proposed for the definition of canopy, would exclude the little kids pop-up tents, because generally speak, like the one we have, for example, has 1 fixed wall on it and then 2 roll-up walls. Would that be allowed anywhere under the way the bylaw is written with the definition of canopy?
Again, through the chair, no. This current version of the bylaw does not allow for any of those sunshade type structures.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions, Council? Councillor Johannesson, and then Ostindi.
Just if we go with the option to ban everything and someone does get a permit for an event, is it currently standing that they would have to pay a fee for that we can make revenue on, or would that just be a free thing that they have to apply for?
Through the chair, there's a couple of different options, but the majority of any tent that would go up through a special event permit, there would be a fee for it, yes. Yeah.
Councillor Ostindi.
Just wondering about jurisdiction again. The idea of charcoal barbecue or set a fire in a park, no person shall do that, as being one of the comments here. In our lease area, do we have rights over the province to state that as well? Or is that lease area then automatically defined as a park?
So through the chair, we are still working through that process right now. We do have a written clarification from the peace officer program that our peace officers and all provincial regulations are applicable in there, and we're just getting clarification from legal on our bylaws as well. I'm going to come out and say right now that yes, I believe that will happen, but we're just waiting for the actual written documentation on it. So we will have jurisdiction over for both provincial and bylaws over the leased area.
So then to clarify, with words like this, in a park or the park, that would include that area without having to amend it. And I know we often want to have control over, fires on the ice. That's beyond that lease and not part of our municipality. But I just want to be clear about the way we word it. Park we believe will be the correct term to use.
Through the chair, yes, that is correct.
Okay,
yes.
Thanks.
Councillor Johannesson.
And just to clarify, maybe I missed it in reading this, but if with option 1 allowing these canopies, are we still talking about Holly's 42nd Street proposal, or would this be the entire Centennial Park, or what exactly were we talking about there?
So through the chair, actually, if I can just back up 1 second, thanks to our peace officers in the room. I do note that section 16 of the bylaw is where we talk about tying things down and protecting vegetation. So thank you to my crew over there. And then back to Councillor Johannesson, I'm just flipping to it here. Schedule B, which is page 39 of the agenda, outlines what it is, and it's from 40th Street to 42nd Street is what we've identified there as the canopy zone.
Thank you. Council, any additional questions? Ms. Phillips.
Sorry, I just need to provide a point of clarity. regarding whether there's a fee for tents or not, Ms. Collicutt added some information there, some clarification. She's going to prove you wrong, Ron, I'm sorry.
Good evening, Council. So currently there are no fees in the fees and charges bylaw for tents for special events. We do have a number of fees associated with special events. So for example, garbage collection, barricades, those types of activities. It is certainly something that we can add if Council chooses to the next revision to the fees and charges bylaw.
Thank you. Councillor Martins.
I was just going to bring the motion.
Great, go ahead. Thank you.
Make a motion that Council approve report AIR 1401 to approve second reading of Parks Bylaw 1952-2026 with the amendments to add definition of canopy. Canopy means a temporary overhead structure or covering that provides protection or shelter from the elements or provides shade and is supported by 4 poles but has no walls. And section 14.1, no person shall erect, place or use a tent or shelter except from a single pole umbrella along the lakefront, including within the Lighthouse Park, Lakefront Park, and Departmental Miscellaneous Lease 210029, which includes a landfill pier, except a canopy will be permitted within the Centennial Park Canopy Zone Schedule B.
Thank you for that mouthful. We'll open up the floor for discussion. Councillor Bilodeau.
I'd like to go back to the last time we talked about this, and I proposed the 41st Street East section. I still feel, I know we had some discussion around including that part by the park. Having walked the lake recently, I just feel it's so narrow, and I still have a concern for any, even though we're now talking about 4 poles, a cover on top, a canopy, as the definition is. I still worry for sight lines for children in that park. So my proposal is still to go from 41st Street East, because that is the area where the shelters were built. And the idea was that this area could give some shade, just like the shelters do that are in that area. So.
Additional, Councillor Johannesson.
Just to clarify, are we talking, or are we discussing option 1, Centennial Park, certain structures, versus option 2, ban it all right now, or is that what we're talking? Okay, perfect.
Any and all above. We'll
Okay.
do one good round of everyone to
Sure.
debate.
So, first of all, I appreciate the admin validating the social media conversation. Our communication director, when he did a survey, came forward and said the overwhelming majority of people in Sylvan Lake want their information on social media. I know that's been debated. We've heard things like Facebook doesn't matter and the voices don't matter, and that's just not true. They do, and that's what the people want, so I appreciate that. Definitions matter, and I'm annoyed about what happened last week. You know, we added the definition of canopy today. It wasn't there last week because that's not what we were talking about. To address some points from the Tourism Committee, the claim that, and they use the word tents, so I'm going to go with the word tents, the claim that bad activity in tents has no evidence is because we didn't enforce any laws. So we didn't know what was going on. Common sense says that if bad activity is going to happen, it's going to happen in a hidden space. That is common sense. And it is our job on council to use common sense and realize if people are going to do drugs or bad activities, it's going to be in hidden areas. We cannot give people hidden areas to do those things, whether or not there is evidence of those things happening. We need to get ahead of that, and that is our job on council. The idea of inclusion, which I already said, I don't like that word for many reasons. Including people, we are not excluding people from coming to the beach by not allowing them to have tents. What we're doing is excluding tents. We're not excluding the people. Everybody's included to be here, but they're included to be here if they follow our laws and respect our bylaws and respect our beach. Then they're included. But inclusion comes with a responsibility. If you're not going to come here and obey our bylaws, if you're not going to come here and respect our beach, I'm not going to include you. And I'm going to be very vocal about excluding you on those points. The tourism part about our economy, I believe, is overstretched. Many of these people come here and don't spend a dime on things and on in our restaurants. They come and they bring in their own foods and the barbecues, which I'm in favor of banning anything to do with cooking here. That will actually help our economy because it will allow people to spend money. If we look at a city like Camrose, similar size, similar tax rate, they don't have a beach, and they support their town and their people and their businesses with their locals. And that's what we can do too. If we stop allowing people to come here and trash our beach and actually cost us money because they're not providing any money, but we are now cleaning up after them and enforcement after them, that's costing us money. That's not helping our economy. And if less of those people come, more of our locals will come and actually spend money in our economy. I believe in our locals supporting our economy, not tourists. And I ran on a Lakers First agenda because I don't give one care about the tourists that come to this town. Not one. Not one of them pays taxes here, and I do not care. I care about what Lakers want. And Lakers don't want tents, canopies, or anything. If one is up, one tent, one structure, one baby shade, one little thing, someone's going to easily say, well, that person's got it there. I'm going to put mine up here, and you're creating confusion and you're creating problems for bylaw. We need to simplify things for bylaw. That's why banning everything altogether for a single, even if it's just for this year to see what happens, rip the Band-Aid off, is the way to go. Creates no confusion, and it's the easiest thing to enforce. Many beaches in Vancouver, I was just in Invermere, no tents, not a single one. People have been on this earth dealing with the heat for the entire existence of our earth before tents were even created. And somehow, we're all still here. Those are our ancestors. They didn't die off. So people can go to a beach and understand it's going to be hot out today, but I don't need to bring in a tent or a canopy for shade. We can figure that out. We have to understand as a council that this is the easiest decision in the history of Sylvan Lake. We got 100 emails, 100 from people, and 90 of those out of 100 said ban everything. This was loud and clear during the election. It's been loud and clear on social media. This council has a duty to the people of this town to ban everything. We don't get our own personal opinions on this. How often do we get such unanimous support for something from our town? Probably almost never. It's impossible to get 90% of the people to agree on anything. This is the easiest decision this council can make. If we allow any sort of structure, canopy, whatever you're going to call it, anywhere, we are doing a disservice to the people who elected us, and I do not want to be associated with doing a disservice to the people when they've been so loud and clear about this. This, in my opinion, is the easiest decision we've ever had to make. We shouldn't even be debating it. It is the easiest decision we've ever. It helps our bylaw officers. It shows the people that we're listening. And again, I thank administration for looking at social media. And that to me means a lot, and I know it means a lot to the people of Sylvan Lake, because it matters. And their voices matter. And they are the most important voice that we can listen to. And they have been loud and clear. Loud and clear. And so I think the decision is very easy. Thank you.
Councillor Payne.
I don't think I'm willing to discount the study by the Tourism Development Group in terms of what tourism brings to the community. And I think a lot of the businesses along Lakeshore would also argue that that is fairly important. With that being said, I don't like the map. I don't like the canopies being in that narrow structure. When we were talking about things, we were talking about canopies, tents, whatever you want to call it in the time. My feeling was, and I thought I understood this from the beginning, but maybe I didn't, that tents were gone, period. That there were no tents on Lakeshore. There were no tents on the north side of the sidewalk. And even what's being proposed right now, there are no hidden areas. There's no shelters being constructed. There's no walls, there's no floors. What there is 4 poles and a ceiling. I don't have a problem with canopies. I don't like where we're putting them. I think that narrow part of Centennial, all the way down to the point, it almost seems like appeasement, like we're...
Councillor Payne, I'm just going to jump in with some clarity. That pointy part is not included in the map. It's actually the red part on the map that's being considered.
So why would we make the pointy part green and the red part red?
Just to make it confusing, but
yeah, it makes no sense.
Mr. Levesque, and then I will let you finish your remarks. I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Sorry, I do have an absolutely wonderful response for that, is that our GIS mapping is currently not functional at the moment. So this is my very, very best option as to try and cover up the red part that was shown in first reading. So that is exactly why the end point is green, is me trying to cover up the red. So my apologies for the confusion.
Okay, then I really don't like it at all. So, yeah, if it's the other way, I'm not in favor of that. I do think...
Mr. Levesque, can I just get you to clarify one more time? I just want to make sure that you're...
Yeah, I've got it figured out now. It's green is not go in this case. Green is stop, and red is go.
Yeah.
It sounds like you've got Sylvan Lake teenage drivers doing your map. So I really don't think, like, here's my thing. When I think about young moms bringing their little kids, bringing their toddlers to the beach, I empathize with not being able to have those pop-up shelters. Because as a young parent in Sylvan with little kids, when I first moved here, we had those soccer pop-up canopies, those soccer pop-up tents that had the one wall for our littlest one, and it worked very well. But I also can say that I didn't go to the beach when there was 50,000 people on the beach. Like, we would go, as a lot of residents do, in the times when it wasn't full. So I was never in a situation where I was competing for a place to put a tent, because there was always 3 of them on the entire lakeshore. So I do think that getting tents off the beach is the right thing to do. I do think that the single pole umbrellas will be fine. I've seen some recently that are quite large. I don't agree with tents of any sort anywhere else. As far as the barbecues go, there was a time 5-6 years ago when you had problems with them because it was all charcoal briquettes. But I have not felt a problem with that. And if you speak to the restaurant owners along Lakeshore, one of which sat on this council in the last council, I don't think the issue is quite as horrible as it might seem. So I don't have a problem with small gas barbecues being used by people who are visiting. So at the end of the day, I don't want tents anywhere. I don't like canopies taking up spaces where kids play, particularly on the west side of Centennial. And if you go down there on any weekend, it's people playing badminton, it's people playing soccer, it's people throwing the frisbee, throwing footballs, and those 10 by 10 foot canopies are simply going to be in the way.
Council Mearns.
Yeah, I just, going back to when we talked about this in January, and I support Councillor Payne and I think the rest of council, like, we don't want tents on the beach. Hard stop. Oh, sorry. Hard stop. And to be able to have umbrellas out there, you know, I've been a resident for over 30 years. And my wife and kids were down at the beach and we had umbrellas. And so I'm happy to support the umbrellas. The canopy side of things within Centennial, I do support. I've heard from, and I'm fine either 42nd, 41st. That, to me, I'm not stuck on those as much, but be able to have an area where there's canopies for some shelter. We've heard, I heard from others outside of social media, outside of email, where, we're having a birthday party. It was brought up, in September, you're having a birthday party out there. It's not busy, but this would mean eliminating all the time. So I think there's a time and a place, and I think if we set up an area within Centennial, whether it's from 42nd to 40th or 41st to 40th, where those are allowed as a canopy, 4 posts, roof structure, then that's something that I can support as it's written here, other than, I'm flexible on Schedule B. Just from the Tourism Development Committee, so for those that don't know, it's community members, it's business owners, it's businesses that are part of that committee. And so to hear from them and to understand the importance of tourism, and I agree with Councillor Payne, like that study it's not just something that's thrown out there, but would support what that study says and the value of tourism to our community. So that's something that I value as well. So I'm happy to support second reading, but optional on how Schedule B looks like.
Councillor Stindy. And just know we will do a full round of council before we have an opportunity for additional comment.
Sir, one of the tough things about our lakefront is it is so busy some of the time, and we're trying to make rules for all of the time. So that's a tough compromise to play. I'm one of these people that just doesn't get offended by the smell of barbecues, the sight of structures, but I do think a lot about sight lines. And, we come to the lake to see the lake, and it is important. I notice some people talking about the idea of, children, you're sitting there and you go, where'd my kid go? Or, or where'd my teenager go for that matter? And just being able to see through the crowd and not to have it obscured, and to enjoy the sightliness of the park and lake. So I like the movement that we've gone as a group to talk about canopies, no walls, and I can support that as well. There is arguments about this idea that people should pay always, and I don't prescribe to that. I go places as a visitor, and I don't necessarily leave my money behind. When I go to Petro Beach, and I've had a barbecue there, I've gone in my canoe there, I've gone there with my paddleboard, I've parked there, and I didn't leave a dime in the municipality of Jarvis Bay Summer Village. And I don't demand that of visitors to our town either. But the pragmatism is the province refused to support us as a tourism town. So we have to have parking fees to pay for the extra costs. I hope the $50 is not too high. I wasn't supporting that jump completely, but I was supporting a jump. We need to pay and cover these costs and the extra toilet flushes and all the things that we do in that park because of its use. The problems that people mention in this park, whether real or imagined or fake or true, and I believe some of them could be true, because I see them 1.5 miles from the lake in my neighborhood, in the bushes behind my house. And those aren't the tourists. So I think we have a lot more work to do this. I saw one email that talked about planting trees, and of course you can guess I, went, yay. You know, we can build natural shade structures in our park by planting more trees. I think it's important, but you can't, you know, get the old horticulturist out there and parks designer to think about how to do that without completely destroying all the open passive spaces. On the gong show days of summer, nobody's going to be able to throw a Frisbee because you're going to hit someone in the head. If we overtree it, you know, you're not going to be able to kick a ball or throw a Frisbee either. But I think we can do better, especially for the mature trees that are dying in every storm. We have struggled with these things since the inception of our community. You know, people talk about the good old days of the Varsity Hall. I'm not that old, I didn't see it. But some of those people tell me, an extended family of mine who've lived in Alberta for their whole lives, tell me about the gong shows that went on, even though things like the Varsity Hall didn't allow alcohol in them. There was plenty of beer drank on our beach at night. And there was beer when I moved to town being handed by one local to another on the sidewalks outside from the bars and restaurants of our community. These are struggles we have, and every time we have to fine tune without destroying the experience that we all want to have and we want to share with our visitors. And yeah, and as a son of immigrants, I think it's important that we make sure that we are welcoming places. I'll leave it at that. I have other thoughts, but I'm ready to support quite a few of the changes we've talked about, and we'll leave it there for now.
Councillor Iwanicki, do you want to jump in before I do here?
Oh, I figured I'd go last. Has Councillor Bilodeau brought up her?
She did,
point
yes.
yet? Okay. Of course, I muted myself again by accident. One of the things that comes up time and time again that sort of causes all of us to sort of get into the weeds on things, and I'll sort of casually echo what Councillor Johannesson said, was that we've again sort of changed what the definition from first reading said, right? And I know we had conversations in January, and those conversations were fairly loosey-goosey and high level. But now we're looking at an even further restriction on a further restriction on a further restriction. And the one thing that I brought up back in January was, and I keep bringing it up again and again, are the kids' pop shelters. It boggles my mind that something that, if we were to allow limited, I'm going to just call them tents. Okay, I get that that's a loaded word, but just because it's colloquially what people use, if we do a limited tent ban, but don't allow those types of structures, I struggle to understand what we're accomplishing, right? Those are the things that most people bring with them. They're small, they're light, they're easy to lug around, they don't take up that much room, right? They're about as offensive as an umbrella. Like, they're maybe a little bit bigger, but not by a heck of a lot. And they're what the majority of people have nowadays. And it just seems like in order to appease people in the effort of attempting to compromise, we're really shooting ourselves in the foot on that effort to compromise. And the one thing that I keep kind of circling back to in my mind is about the concept of advocacy, right? Like, I get that people want to advocate for their position. I get people get passionate about it. I get that those passions can sometimes get a little bit heated. But we have to remember that, you know, hostility or harshness isn't an advocacy strategy, right? And just because people are passionate in a form that we read typically in an email or sometimes on a social media post and it's all caps and they're clearly upset. That's not evidence of anything aside from evidence of them being upset. And that's not to discount it. You know, people have a right to be angry with us. They have a right to be angry with the town, justified or not. But I'm worried that we're listening to too much or taking too much weight on the loudest voice when that volume is only evidence of volume, right? I emailed most of the people who emailed us those 3 questions that I forwarded you mostly everyone's responses. And there was like a good number of those replies to those. There's a handful that said, no, I want an outright ban. Cool. All right. Well, that answered my question. Right. But a sizable chunk of them too were just like, no, I just don't want tents on the beach. Okay. Right. That's kind of already what we're doing. And then another, chunk of those people said, oh, okay, well, the canopies are okay, or, sunshade for seniors are okay, or just sunshade for toddlers is okay. And we just, like, everyone, for the most part, understands there's got to be some balance here. And the way I'm looking at it now, I don't see balance. So I'm at a point where I'm struggling to even support where we're at this stage. It just doesn't seem like we're really compromising anymore. We're 90% on the way to a full ban. 95. Anyway.
Thank you. I'll jump in with some remarks, and then I'm also hearing some floated edits, so I'm just going to plant the seed ahead of time. Council, the best way to do that is to formally put in an amendment on the floor, and then we can vote on that, and that will allow us to work through issue by issue. So if there's a change in zone, if there's a change in definition, if there's those specific things, start to prep yourself for that. But I prepared. And I want to say I'll be supporting the bylaw as on the table right now tonight. I appreciate the edits and the clarity that we've added since then, although I've got a couple of thoughts since then. But one thing I want to note is we've introduced so many layers of change over the last number of months, and you're right, we haven't had the opportunity to test this change. But I'm genuinely really excited about them. We've heard from residents very clearly that they wanted something different along our lakefront this year, and I believe that's exactly what we'll be delivering with the cumulative effect of all of these changes. We're increasing our revenue through parking substantially this year, which in turn allows us to reinvest directly into the area. And I want to make sure that we highlight all of these changes because for me, they're not one-offs. We have to look at this collective bunch of them. So this year we're adding more park staff, we're adding more bylaw officers, so the rules that we put in place should be enforced. We've got those additional resources to do so. We're improving and increasing the garbage receptacles. We're changing our entire lakefront to be that smoke-free area during the hours when families use it most. We're expanding the overall number of washrooms by the additions in Centennial Park. We're also increasing the cleaning frequency of those washrooms to ensure that it's a clean place to go. Making many other enhancements that provide that overall improved experience on our lakefront. We've also had consensus around the lakeshore tents, and council, I don't think anyone disagrees that we will be moving from anything but single pole umbrella use down on the actual lakefront, the sand, the other area. So it's really a small area that we're still talking about here. Now, over the past several weeks, each of us has had hundreds of conversations, whether that be through email or other way, with a cross-section of our community. And I want to acknowledge that my email feedback and my in-person conversations have been polar opposite at times, which makes this really hard to figure out where to land on it. And I think that's been hard for all of us to navigate. So at least for me, those perspectives have been really diverse, but I will say that the group I personally just had the most conversations with after this were families. And of course, that's because I have kids of the same age. It's really easy to have these conversations on school grounds and in other places, sports groups that we frequent. Families, the things that I've heard clear are that families want clear sight lines of the water and the sand area, which I believe we've achieved with the move to umbrellas only, but they also want the option to gather in shaded areas. I've heard some really practical examples of how this last remaining space that we're discussing is being used. This is September birthday parties. I personally attended 3 of them last September that are hosted by the playground in Centennial Park, and local ball hockey teams that are participating in things like Battle of the Beach in June. Every year, those families that gather to that, local families, rely on Centennial Park as a place to meet, regroup, stay out of the rain, because it always seems to rain, and connect. But it is not part of the actual special event license, so it's not something that could be factored in. They do want to be close to that area. And this is a culture in Sylvan Lake that's been happening for many, many years. So I do believe we can achieve this broader lakefront vision that we've been discussing while still allowing for some types of gatherings like the ones I've mentioned, specifically those really out of season ones. When there is space, I don't think there is a real concern there. Specifically, I think there's balance in permitting the canopy use without walls, and we've been clear on that in this edit, in the designated areas of Centennial Park. But I will also say, if there was an amendment to include those pop-up shelters in that area, that also makes sense to me. Those small, but then we get into the problem of, do you have a tape measure? So I'm not sure if that's worth the trouble that gets into. I do want to note a couple of minor amendments for administration and council to consider. One is at the top of page 37. There's a reference to the CAO of Parks. We don't have one of those, so we may want to edit that either to the CAO or the director of Parks. Also on page 34, there's the wording of place of residence. And I wonder if that could require some additional clarification. It may be worth exploring language that addresses overnight use specifically. I think that is clear in other parts of this, but if we wanted it to just be crystal clear, prohibiting canopies or any structure between certain hours, such as 11 p.m. to 6 a.m., because I was thinking after fireworks, unless they're approved under a special event permit, maybe something just worth giving an extra level of clarity for those that were doing the enforcing. I also want to add that I really don't want to see this bylaw fail. If it does fail, then it reverts back to the existing bylaw and there is no changes from last year. And I do think being days away from the May long weekend, having clarity in place of if the weather stays nice, having that in place would be a huge advantage. I think as a whole, residents would be very disappointed to see this conversation and then not see a change because of that. Overall, I think that this bylaw reflects the feedback we've received to the best of our ability and the direction that we want to move together as a community: welcoming, relaxed, safe, clean, and enjoyable. And this is something I just want to note that we will reassess after this one summer season. If edits are continued to be needed, then we'll do that at the end of this season and we'll ensure that we do get it right. But we are making a lot of changes and I do believe we need to consider that. That is my thoughts. Councillor Payne.
Could we get a second round of going around?
Yes, but I am wondering if we can take a recess in the middle of an agenda item. Can we do that? Great.
Yes, you can.
With that, council, let's just take a 7-minute recess. We'll come back at 5:45. Thank you. discussion here. So I'm wondering if anyone wants to put any amendments on the table for us to really discuss, vote on. Oh. Councillor Payne, yes.
I would like to discuss, if we can, Schedule B.
Sure.
I'm very not in favor of, I'm very not in favor of the map of the entirety, of nearly the entirety, except for the sliver on the end, which is very inappropriately colored green, Mr. Lebsack. I would very much like the area adjacent to the playground to not. And to be honest, if it was up to me, I would say nowhere. But recognizing that the choices here is either amend where the canopies go, or if this fails, and I think people really need to understand this part, if this fails, we are stuck with what we currently have, which is tents on Lakeshore. So we have to recognize that this has to pass in some degree. And right now, with tents being gone, which we all want, nobody wants tents. With tents being gone, it's a great move forward. With canopies having no walls and no floors, it's a great move forward. I just don't want the canopies in that narrow section. I think.
So, Councillor Payne, just to be specific, can I get you to put a motion on the floor that designates the area you'd like us to vote on?
At the very most, I would like the allowed area to be to 41st Street. I do not want it to be west of 41st. So the entire area adjacent to Centennial Playground, I do not want canopies to be on. If canopies are going to be on Centennial, I want them to be east of 41st Street.
Sure. Yes. To that motion, Councillor Johansson.
Well, I mean, I want to vote on, like, I want to vote on a complete and total ban of tents and canopies everywhere. I'm a little confused about if it doesn't pass or whatnot. And it's on there, like, I want to, like, this is, and besides single pole umbrellas, which Councillor Iwanicki mentioned, baby shelters and whatnot, just single pole umbrellas. That's all that's allowed anywhere on Lakeshore, anywhere on Centennial. That is enough for a baby. We are confused, like, we are confused around this table about where to go and what to put in. Imagine people that come here and don't understand what's going on, how confused they're going to be. The simplest, and what, you know, I'm hearing these things being said that is not true, about there's a mixed opinion. There's really not. There's a couple people that are like, yeah, I'm fine with canopies. I read all the emails and I responded to every single one of the emails. I read all the Facebook comments. I saw the poll that Jordan put up on Lake Nation that had 700 votes in favor of banning everything on Centennial. Those things matter. The public has been crystal clear of what they want. We need to rip the Band-Aid off this thing, and for a year at least, have nothing anywhere except single pole umbrellas. That is the simplest,
Councillor Johansson, I'm just going to jump in, just in terms of protocol. So we can put different amendments on, we'll vote on each of those individually, and then we'll get to vote on the whole item.
Perfect, okay.
So I just want to make sure we're doing this step by step. Councillor Payne has a motion on the floor to amend the map.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And we'll just do mics on for all conversation, just to be clear, thank you.
Well, I was just clarifying with Councillor Johansson, what he's wanting, if I'm understanding right, is option 2 for section 14.1. So just to make that clear to people who are listening.
So what we can do is vote on this motion, pass or fail, and you could put forward another amending motion and we can vote on that. But we do need to do them one by one.
So right now we're just talking about the modification of Schedule B.
We're just talking about,
okay.
Yeah, exactly, the modification on the map. So that's what we'll ask for a vote of council on. If there's any final clarification points, I see Councillor Iwanicki, but really what we're talking about is if we want to modify the map, so it goes from 41st east. Councillor Johansson.
What?
Oh, sorry, Councillor Iwanicki.
Yeah. I was like, I had my hand up. Sorry. Just for a matter of expediency, I know Councillor Johansson doesn't have the motion forward, but that would be an answer to the totality of all of these questions that are ultimately going to flow forward. Do we not want to maybe consider that issue first? rather than like piece it or do it piecemeal or I'm just thinking of like ordering of things.
Ms. Phillips, I'll get your advice on that because we do have a motion on the floor.
Through the chair, you could table your amendment to allow another amendment to come forward first, and then Councillor Iwanicki could make a oh my gosh, I am so sorry. I blame the mayor, she started it. Councillor Johannesson could then bring forward his amendment if you wanted that one to be voted on first, and then if that, but yeah, I don't know if you need some assistance with what you're trying to ask though, or if you know what your motion should be.
Well.
And if you're okay tabling, I guess you need to table first.
Yeah, it would be option 2 of 14.1. That's what I would like to discuss. And that makes sense to me. Like, if we vote on that and it passes, boom, we're done. The conversation's over.
Sure. Okay.
I would be fine with tabling my, my amendment until we deal with.
Okay, so, sorry,
to vote
this
on
is
the
going to be an
tabling?
issue though.
Yes.
We now have an issue. We cannot bring forward a motion that goes against the motion that's currently on the floor. The motion that's currently on the floor, so you'd have to vote down that one. Okay. Right? So the motion that's currently on the floor is option 1. So you can't bring forward, you can bring an amendment, but the amendment cannot completely change the initial motion. So by changing, so your motion wouldn't stand until the first motion that's the original motion is voted on. You can amend that original motion, and if that one was defeated, then you could make a motion for option 2.
Could we not vote on that amendment, though?
You could vote on the amendment for for Councillor Payne's amendment, because it aligns with this motion. But you can't totally contradict the motion, the main motion on the floor.
Okay. With that, we do have a motion on the floor, so I believe we should go forward in voting for that if we can't contradict ourselves. Let's get that dealt with, and then we'll know whether we're talking about two different things.
But sorry, I just need clarity on this. If we're going to vote on the Schedule B amendment that I've put forth, regardless of the outcome of that motion, we can still discuss 14.1. Am I correct?
You can debate it, but that motion cannot be placed on the floor until the current main motion is either withdrawn or voted on. Right? Because the current motion is the recommended motion.
So he can withdraw it, though.
Or he could withdraw it.
I could withdraw my motion.
The amendment isn't as relevant as the original motion.
It's Tim's motion.
And then council needs to support that withdrawal. Like, there needs to be consensus that that be withdrawn, because it doesn't belong to the mover, it belongs to council now, as soon as it's acknowledged.
So whether or not we discuss 14.1, that discussion of 14.1 should have happened before the motion, the primary motion was put on the floor. Is that the understanding?
You can argue, like you can debate, I shouldn't use the word argue. You can debate and say, I don't agree with this motion, I support option 1, and then when it comes to the vote, then if that was defeated, then the other motion could be made.
But my understanding is if you defeat the motion, you defeat the bylaw. If you defeat the motion when we're in second reading,
well, unless
I'm just hearing a workaround, because if we voted on what's on the table right now, and then we know we're talking about just two things, if we had consensus to withdraw it, that would essentially be a vote for the other option.
But then if you defeat that motion, you know, as long as now I'm looking for, if there was another motion on, you could have, the issue is if you can't come to a consensus about the final motion, because just because one's defeated, if another motion was made, you can still move forward with second reading. But if we left here with no resolution or it's defeated at second reading, then it's done. Mm-hmm. But you could provide a second motion.
Okay, guide us on what we should do in this very moment next.
I mean, does council want to vote to see if there's that consensus? Like, it's challenging to do it because the motion that's on the table is the one that should get voted for.
Mm-hmm. But what's being amended, or what's wanting to be amended, going back to the original motion, the motion that says, not my amendment, mm-hmm. but what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to substantially amend the original motion, which you should be able to do regardless of whether or not it substantially changes the motion. You should be able to amend it. Because if we don't amend it and we defeat that motion, then then it's done. There's no moving forward with any more readings. The bylaw is defeated. We go with status quo.
Can I just jump in? Because I thought that you could make a motion, an amendment, even if it's contradictory, as long as you voted on it. It's just not a friendly amendment, of course, if it's, is that not the case? And Councillor Ostindi.
I'm just wondering if, to solve the predicament we're in, if we were to amend the last part of the motion that's on the floor, what's written in text here, to be modified, amended, to exclude the very last part of the sentence, the except a canopy will be permitted within the Centennial Park Canopy Zone Schedule B. Like, in effect, we would remove that one thought. And I'm not saying I'm supporting it, I'm just saying in terms of process.
Yeah, I think where Councillor Stiney's going is correct, because it's an amendment to this motion, similar to Councillor Payne, amending Schedule B, Councillor Johannesson. So, I'm just going to speak out loud. So if Councillor Payne just withheld his motion, Councillor Johannesson could put forward an amendment to remove canopies within Centennial Park Zone B. We would vote on Councillor Johannesson's amendment, and then depends where that goes, go back to Councillor Payne's. My motion would still stand, but we voted on the amendments.
Council, let's do that. Thank you for working through it. Councillor Payne, you're happy to withdraw your amendment?
I'm not going to withdraw my motion. I'm going to table it until the results of Councillor Johannesson's motion to amend the original motion.
Great. Councillor Johannesson, you'd like to make an amending motion.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, so we're talking about administration recommends that council approves second reading of the Parks Bylaw to include tenting option 1, no person shall place, and so we're taking out the Centennial Park, which would essentially be a full ban everywhere, correct? Okay, yeah. So how do you want me to word that? Just to remove, I amend to remove the last sentence regarding except canopy will be permitted in Centennial Park tenting zone from 14.1 Schedule B?
Yes. Great. We have a motion on the floor for extreme clarity, Council. The amending motion, if you were to vote in favor of it, it means we remove that entire area. If you're to vote against it, it means we keep that entire area, and then we'll go on to talk about modifications of the area. Is that crystal clear to everyone? And I'll just put your hand up if it's not. We really took you on a journey there. Thank you. Okay, we've got that amending motion on the floor by Councillor Johannesson. Let me just think through this one more time. Yes, all those in favor and opposed? Okay, that has been defeated. So now, Councillor Payne, we'll bring your motion back from the table to amend the zone.
Okay, so my motion is to move Schedule B so that it is from 41st Street east.
Great. Any further, the question is on the table, unless there's some clarity needed from council.
Oh,
yeah. Sure, Councillor
just a
Cindy?
debate. To shrink the area means you're going to densify what's happening, in my opinion. And so I like the idea of having 42nd on, not just 41st on. So I'm speaking against the amendment, just on that principle. The sight lines of canopies is not the issue that what tents are, and I've been comfortable with canopies, and I think we've made a great compromise in terms of shrinking the area of canopies pretty much in half or more in all of these park zones. So I think having from 42nd on the original map as it's drawn without the green zone is something I support.
Councillor Johansson.
Just some clarity here, because I'm a little confused about what just happened. Did we just vote on not even talking about a complete ban without any sort of discussion?
We did vote on that, yes.
So now that is now just off the table?
Yes.
But we didn't discuss it at all?
I guess
Well,
we had discussed that within the first one is my thought, but no one, sorry, I am moving fast, but no one did put up a hand there, so I want to make sure we're.
Yes, I think, no, this is an issue. We have to be able to talk about a complete and total ban like that. It at least needs to be debated among council here. Again, that is the overwhelming majority of what the people of Sylvan Lake want. And it is a disservice to just brush that under the table and make that go away. You know, we talk about, you know, the tourism part, and tourism is important, but it's the right tourists. It's the ones who respect our beach. It's the ones that don't come here and trash our beach. The ones that don't spend money and that cost us money. And to Ian's point, I'm not demanding that tourists pay money when they come here. I'm making a point that tourism is very overvalued. And we are constantly saying things like welcoming and inclusive. And those words are meant to manipulate people into feeling a certain way. Everybody is welcome here under strict guidelines that we respect our beach and they respect the beach that comes here. Well, welcoming is not simply you're allowed to come here and do whatever you want. Those words need to get out of our vocabulary because there's an asterisk next to those words.
Now, I'm just going to jump back here to Ms. Phillips in terms of protocol here.
Procedurally, since the item was voted on, there'd need to be a motion to reconsider the vote, and you need a 2/3 support to re-enter debate. Being that it was defeated at this meeting, I don't know that you'd get there, but that would be the proper step. It shouldn't be debated any further. Well, there was debate initially, and it's up to council, you know, to, I don't know exactly, like, there was debate leading up to the amendment, and then you've moved on with the vote. So the reality is, though, the vote did happen, so now it would have to be a reconsideration of the vote, because the vote is done.
But the vote happened without discussion. So I put the amendment on the table, and then a vote was asked for without discussion.
So we need a reconsideration then.
That's
procedurally.
Sure. Councillor Oostende, and then Iwanicki, I'm coming back to you.
I would move a reconsideration of the amendment that we voted on, excluding the last portion of the motion. That's what we want, right?
Say that.
We have to vote 2/3 in favor of that.
Yes. Sorry, say that one more time.
I move that we reconsider the vote on the amendment made by Councillor Johansson on removal of the last sentence of the original motion.
So essentially to reopen debate.
Yep.
And you need 5 votes in support to reopen.
I'm making that motion.
Okay, procedural.
We have that motion on the floor. All those in favor and opposed, and that is defeated. Council, I just want to go through process here to ensure, so my understanding, we all did one round of debate and we were allowed to cover all the topics, and I hope that we were all able to do that. And that now it's a bit of rapid fire when it comes to these amendments. Unless there is something new that wasn't captured, we wouldn't typically have a fulsome all of council debate with the additional 5 minutes of time on every one of the amendments. I would just expect motion, vote on most of these items, because we did thoroughly give that opportunity to have one good round of council. Now, if anyone would like to extend our time and do that differently, certainly we can talk about that, but Ms. Phillips.
And I will just add that everyone did have the option to speak up and say before we vote, but the vote happened by everybody in the room. So procedurally, that is the right step. So it should be moving forward.
so, but we went on, the problem that I'm having here is I have notes that I wanted to speak on regarding the full ban of tents, but we went on a recess. And so I was planning on being able to come back and talk that afterwards. And then there was no option when I put my amendment on the table to discuss, like we missed that step, which is what happens on every
Just to
vote.
interject
It was
though,
just to
we
vote.
did have a full round and you used, I believe, your 5 minutes. So to go into a second round would be a full other round of discussion. We don't typically get that full time allotment on every amendment. So we could certainly check the clock on that, but we did allot that time in the first round of conversation, which could cover any area of this bylaw.
We were not fully discussing the options to ban it, and it was going on recess in between it. This just seems like this is something the public wants, and council's refusing to even consider that as an option. And I think that's going to be quite the problem. I mean, the logical conclusion of what happens when we allow tents in Centennial, and we have to go to logical conclusions, is what happens when the space runs out and there's no people that bring canopies can't put them in Centennial. Where are they going to put them? So they're going to put them where they don't belong, and they're going to cause headaches for bylaw, and they're going to say, well, they're allowed to have them over there, and then there's more conversations. We are creating a mess right now, and I'm not sure what it is, if it's pandering to tourists over Lakers. I don't know what's going on, but this council right now,
I'm just going to call point of order,
disappointed in
Chair.
in the mess that
Point
we're
of order
creating.
has been called. Let me go back to my notes.
Shutting
to
down
ensure
conversation is not
that I am correct.
not the win that you think it is.
Sure.
It's
okay.
It's
We're
disappointing.
We are going to carry on with our debate, with our continued amendments, because we do need to get to a place that we complete this conversation tonight. Councillor Iwanicki, I think, was next, and then Councillor Payne. Were those, sorry, let me go back. We have an amendment on the floor for Councillor Payne's to reduce the area. Is there any comment specific to that? If not, we will go forward and call the question again on the next one, and then we do have some more amendments to put forward. So I anticipate a number of these. Sure.
I would like to reduce the area to nowhere.
Sure. With that, I will call the question on Councillor Payne's amendment. Are we clear on what that is? Great. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is defeated. Would anyone else like to bring forward amendments on this motion? I do have a couple. I'd like to make a motion to make the edit to the top of page 37, the reference to the CAO or the Director of Parks. I guess I'm looking for your advice on that. Who is the authority?
Sure. So, sorry, Your Worship, through the chair, I'm just going to flip to it again. That is a what do we call it, a terminology. So it would just be enter or remain in a park when closed by the CAO.
Okay. That's probably administrative, but I'm just going to make it an amendment so we're clear. That amendment is that I'd like that to end with the word CAO on that statement on the top of page 37. Council, are we clear on that? Sure. Page 37, yeah. Section 5.3, the first offense. Okay. That motion is on the floor. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. I'd like to make one more to clarify under page 34, the wording place of residence. And I'd like to see a time added onto that just for an additional layer of clarity. My suggestion is 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. that all of those structures would be prohibited. I think that probably is a bit of a duplication, but for me, that makes it much more clear. Do we understand that amendment, Councillor Mertz?
Where's that, sorry, Where is that located?
It is page 34.
Section
the
17.3.
Yes. Right in red there. Councillor Payne.
So you're wanting to put a time on that?
Yes. My suggestion would be that it stays the same. No person shall make it or attempt to make a place of residence in or upon any park, green space, or environmental reserve. No. Go ahead. Councillor Mearns?
I don't think we need a time on that. I think that's
It's all inclusive.
encompassing. Yeah.
That's fair. We have an amendment on the floor. If we're clear on it, let's go to a vote. All those in favor? Okay, sorry. Just looking to edit and add specific hours on there. My motion is to add the hours.
But just to point to that, if you put specific hours on there, it means the inverse is okay outside of those hours.
Fair.
So it's okay to have a residence there in the times that you're not going to put in there.
I guess my question was, then during those what is considered make it a place of residence? Is that you're settling in with your family for the day, or is it staying overnight? For me, it comes down to staying overnight. Of course, that wouldn't be permitted. Ms. Phillips.
Could I make the recommendation to have it as a separate line from the residence one, to say no structures of any kind between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m.?
Yes.
Then it separates it from residence.
Yeah, that makes sense for me. Let me make that, Councillor Mearns.
So 2 separate line items is what we're saying? Is that
No
what I'm hearing?
changes to 17.3, just an addition.
Got it.
An additional amendment that says no shade structures shall be permitted between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. unless approved by a special event permit. That amendment is on the floor. All those in favor? And opposed? Councillor Bilodeau, I didn't catch which way you were on that.
I'm just being honest.
Okay.
Say it again,
so
I understand what I'm voting on.
just looking to add a line that says, outside of everything else,
So 17.3 would stand in red as it is.
all good? Yeah, that would stay. Just an additional line, they'd have to pick a new number for it, that says, no shade structures would be permitted between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. unless approved under a special event permit.
Okay. Why do we need to say that?
For me, it was just clarity. I didn't find it anywhere else that made that incredibly clear. Councillor Mearns.
I think behind it is, and correct me if I'm wrong reading into this, that we don't want anything up in the evening at all.
Right.
So that's
And you were saying that we don't really have that.
correct.
So rather than leave it open, okay.
It's just an extra, but please feel free to vote against it. We absolutely, if we don't feel like this added layer is needed, but I do want to make sure you vote because that is a requirement. Yeah. So now that we've got that captured, is everyone else clear on that amendment? Great. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Bilodeau, sure.
Because this hasn't happened very often, I'm going to go back about 2 motions where the motion was defeated for the change to Schedule B. Can you explain to me what that means then? Do we revert back to the entire Centennial Park being an area open? Okay.
Just as written in the bylaw is how we'd revert back to, as the map is in there. So that is.
Minus the green zone.
40 seconds.
Okay, so it was 40 seconds. Okay, thank you, very clear.
I'll give one last call. Is there any other amendments that we'd like to make? And before we call the full question, Ms. Phillips, I'll look to you. Have we captured what is needed? Councillor Iwanicki.
Yeah, I just want to see if there's an appetite for an amendment to the definition of canopy to include a children's pop-up tent. I know I understand and respect the confusion that can arise on having to measure that, but I would like to see that included in that definition. I'm just not entirely certain how that would be worded. And I might defer to Mr. Lebsack in that regard.
Sure, Mr. Lebsack, Ms. Phillips, any advice on that motion?
Sorry, through the chair, I don't have wording for a definition that would match that at this point in time. I'd have to look that up.
Would it almost fit, sorry, would it almost fit with last year's definition of, but instead of tents under 1 meter square, pop-up sun shelters under 1 meter square, and then obviously clear communications? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm just envisioning something that you could clearly put down that it's small and that it, can't be fully enclosed, right? So that there's no argument that someone might try and put up a camping tent and say, that's my kid's pop-up shelter.
Councillor Ostindi, and then,
I was going to say, what we could do is vote on, if you wanted to put it on the floor to amend that, and we could figure out the actual wording for that clarity to see if there's even an appetite for that, to add small pop-up single-side, one-sided sun structures only in Centennial, I'm assuming? Or everywhere? Only Centennial? And you could vote on that.
I would like it everywhere, but I think there wouldn't be an appetite for that. So I'm happy to just leave it at Centennial.
Sure. Councillor Ostindi, Payne, Johannesson.
This is one of the most uncomfortable parts of this bylaw for me, the idea that you can't give shade to a baby in one of those small structures that I've seen on beaches and parks elsewhere. However, I don't think we can make this decision, I'll call it on the fly. And I'm not comfortable with doing this on the fly. But I am very interested in a future conversation where we really see, maybe in a governance and priorities meeting, where we can free-flowing discussion and debate what a structure might be. Because the moment you try and define these things, as we've noted already, it gets just super complex. And you think you got it right, and then you walk into Costco and you spot something else that looks just a little bit different. So that's why I'm uncomfortable, I'll call it, doing it on the fly.
Councillor Payne.
I would concur with what Councillor Ostindi is saying. Like, there's been so much change, debate, and confusion here that even around the horseshoe we're confused. And we're only in second reading, which blows my mind. I'm not comfortable with opening another door for confusion. Like that's the part that in as much as I would love to be able to have these canopies be used for toddlers, I just think that the potential for abuse, and I think about my own situation, we always had one, like if I was going to a soccer game with one of my boys, we always had a single pop-up tent that was very small, one person could sit in it. But if my wife came along, we had two. We had a pop-up tent that had two, and it was 2 meters wide. It was huge. So I think getting into this piece right here is just going to create more confusion and another opportunity for someone to abuse the possibility. So I wouldn't be in support of this.
Johannesson, Mearns, and then I will just bring us back to if we have a formal motion, and then we could vote on it to make this, to have the conversation around canopies, and that's how we'll get to have our sway there.
I mean, both my colleagues to my left and my right said the thing that I've been saying the entire time we've talked about this is the confusion. Like, we are spending hours on this conversation, and the reality is that, like I said before, it's the most obvious thing that we should have ever been done. It should take 2 minutes. Yeah, ban everything except single pole umbrellas, and then we're done. The potential for abuse that both my colleagues just mentioned, if we allow the baby tent, is going to be the same thing if we allow canopies. So with canopies, you can put tarps on them, and now they're walled. And now we're creating more problems for bylaw because they're going to have to go pull these tarps off of people. The potential for abuse and the confusion is with everything that we're doing. The least confusion and the least potential for abuse, and the best thing we can do for our bylaw officers, who have one of the hardest jobs in the summertime out there on the beach, is to make it not confusing. to make no potential for abuse. If anything that is out on the beach or Centennial is not a single pole umbrella, we know how to deal with it and we not have to measure it and argue with people. So I don't support Councillor Iwanicki's shade tent. Parents can figure it out. I have a 16-month-old daughter, just took her to the beach in Invermere. She's still alive and she's doing well because we have a time limit and organic sunscreen. So the potential for abuse and the confusion is being created by the canopies. So we're like drawing a line of like, well, we don't want to go all the way to baby tents.
Point of order.
That might be, of course you would. That might be a, what's your reason, I guess?
Well,
I'm speaking on.
We will jump back to the question that we do get to vote. And I want to express that that is the most important part. It is really hard because we all have so much we want to say, but ultimately it comes down to how we each wield our vote on this discussion. And I want to bring us back to the opportunity to do that. Councillor Mers, did you have a quick comment? So specifically to get to that vote, Councillor Iwanicki, would you like to put forward that formal amendment that include to discuss canopies? And certainly we would.
I'll save us all the time and just withdraw it.
Sure. Okay. Are there any other formal amendments we'd like to make to tonight's motion? Okay, I'm seeing none. We have the main motion on the floor. It has, if I've kept up with my notes correctly here, we've got the 2 wording amendments that I proposed, and the map is as shown in this document, is what we've landed on with this. I'm going to give one last call for any further amendments. Seeing none, we have the motion for second reading on the floor. All those in favor? And opposed? Sure. Thank you. Councillor Mearns.
I'd like to make a motion to proceed to third reading.
Sure. Councillor Payne.
Just to comment on that, I don't feel comfortable going with third reading. Like I feel like the emotional piece of this and with all the changes and all the confusion, I feel like it's one of those things I want to be able to take back and think about. That's just my own feeling.
Ms. Phillips, can you remind me of our process for going to third reading if there's some, do we vote on that?
Sorry. Sorry, I'm confused on what you're asking for.
We've got a motion on the floor by Councillor Mearns
so
to
it would
go
have
to
to
third
be
reading.
Voted on, or it would have to be tabled to the next meeting. I don't know if we have any administrative feedback, or we're good for that. We're good. So if you want to table it.
Okay, so a secondary motion, so you could make this, I'm just going back to it, could be made to postpone the motion.
Or postpone, yeah.
I just feel at this point that going into third reading now, there's as much debate in third reading as there was in second reading. And I feel like doing this again is, I don't feel like it's the time for us to do this. I feel like I need to be able to reflect personally. So I would move to table the motion to the next meeting.
To postpone to third reading. Great. We have that motion on the floor. Councillor Johansson?
Yeah, I would echo that too, and I think it gives all of us time, now that we've been super clear on the definitions of things and canopies in Centennial Park, to get more public feedback and see what they want. So yeah, I would be in favor of that. I know it's not ideal with the summer season right around the corner, but it is the most important thing to get this right and to get more feedback from the public. So I would like this to be sent out to the public. Do you support canopies in Centennial Park? And we should hear from them, and we should get that information as well.
Sure. We have motion on the floor. Do we have anyone unclear on the motion? Councillor Mearns?
The motion on the floor is Councillor Payne's to postpone.
Councillor Payne's motion to postpone is on the floor. So voting in favor means you would like to postpone third reading. Voting against means we will proceed with third reading. Motion, Councillor Osindi, question for?
Not so much a question. I'm going to support this postponement in the spirit of the strength of debate I value, and timeliness is not awesome, as pointed out already. But I want us all to reflect on the idea that we do get feedback from the circles that we circulate in. And that is valuable. But keep in mind that we all have different circles of circulation, and that we hear, we each hear many different voices in each of our worlds. And that's why we come here to this table with different perspectives. And sometimes I agree with my colleagues, and sometimes I don't. And I look forward to the debate in third reading. I'll support this postponement.
Sure. Is there anyone else that had a hand on that? Motion on the floor. All those in favor of postponing and opposed? And that is carried. So we will continue on to our next agenda item. Council, should we take a 5-minute recess? Great. Let's do that. Thank you. Licensing bylaw.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is for Council to consider granting third reading to the business licensing bylaw, Bylaw 1951, 2026, being a bylaw to replace Bylaw 1845, 2021. Following direction provided by Council at the last Council meeting on April 27th, administration has made amendments to the proposed bylaw to address the identified concerns. The proposed amendments include, first, Section 15B. This section now requires all business applicants to provide photo ID as part of their application submission. Sections 56 and 57 have been amended. These sections have been added to address the request for a specific time frame for reapplication by a business whose license has been refused, suspended, or canceled. The time frame added is 2 years for the same business or a similar one they may be applying for. And Section 58 was also added, giving the licensing inspector the opportunity to reissue a license if the issues have been remedied prior to the 2-year time frame and no other issues existing. At this time, administration respectfully recommends that Council grant third reading to Bylaw 1951, 2026, the business licensing bylaw, and that Council also authorize a refund of the 2026 business licensing fees paid by registered nonprofit organizations.
Wonderful. Do we have any questions of administration? Would someone like to put a motion on the floor? Councillor Payne.
I move that Council grant third reading of Bylaw 1951, 2026, being the business licensing bylaw as requested in AIR 1397, and the Council direct administration to refund the 2026 business licensing fees to registered nonprofit organizations as requested in AIR 1397.
Excellent. Any comments or debate, Council? Great. Call the question. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to the request construction contract award for Gettle Park. Mr. Boudreau and Mr. Yee, nice to see you both.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just give me a minute. I want to set a few things up here so I'm better prepared. Okay, thank you for your patience. This evening we're here to present to you our recommendation to award the construction contract for the Gettle Park water main for the sanitary trunk extension to service the South Annex lands and the temporary paved road along Memorial Trail west of 60th Street. There are 3 key aspects to this tender project which need to be taken into consideration. It's a very technical, very demanding, and very logistically tough project with a lot of challenges along the way for each utility in order for it to be done the way we see it having to be done to meet the town's needs for the future and today. The sanitary trunk is one where it is extremely deep. Having it this deep allows us to alleviate the need for 2 sanitary lift stations. So installing this as it is going to be a challenge for the contractors, but there's also several challenging crossings that need to be had throughout that construction process as well. For the water line, there's some significant challenges. There is a significant wetland. There is some high pressure gas line crossings. There's some potential contaminated soils, and there's also the Gull Season and Gettle Park area that needs to be negotiated around as well. And then with the roadway, similar to the water, the Gull Season and access to the west area needs to be done, but also the water line itself is a point that needs to be negotiated around as well to ensure it is being done in the proper way. So upon closing of the tender, we received 4 submissions. As you see before you there, one Curb Earthworks, the other New Edge Construction, Paternies Incorporated, and Urban Dirtworks. The submissions came in between approximately 4.3 million and 5.9 million. We reviewed them all for completeness and accuracy, which they met. We scored them this way with 50% being based on the pricing, and then the other 50% based on the construction schedule, the construction methodology, and the traffic accommodation, previous experience with references, owner and consultant experience with each contractor, and the proposed contractor team and any value added they saw that could benefit the project and the town going forward. Our consultants and town administration reviewed all the submissions, and upon said review, we had determined that Paternies had the best submission out of the team to provide us with what we needed to have going forward for the betterment of the environment, for the betterment of our community, and the betterment of the area. Part of their submission, there was 3 items that they presented that we determined presented a great deal of extra value to the community to ensure longevity and operational success for these utilities, as we've listed here. For the resource impacts, we estimate a budget of approximately $6,020,000 would be necessary to complete all 3 of these projects within the 2026 season. We've presented a few options for council to consider as you contemplate awarding of these tenders. Administration would like to respectfully recommend that there be a budget adjustment to increase the sanitary trunk servicing for the South Annex lands by the allowable 15% in the MGA of 420,000. And also, administration would like to respectfully recommend that council direct administration to award the construction contract for all 3 projects to Paternies of Black Falls. With that, I will take any questions you have.
Sure, we'll start with those questions, Council. Councillor Ostindi.
Just to speak to questions I had before the open mic. The ductile iron, is that a preferred material for water mains? Just because I know they corrode versus the PVC, I understand have a longer lifespan. Is there a particular reason why we're doing ductile iron? And I picked up on that because when some cathodic treatment to it in the contaminated sections. So why did we pick that material?
Yes, through the chair. Good catch, Councillor Ostindi. We are choosing the ductile iron through the contaminated zones due to its resiliency to permutation. It's only going to be within that potential contaminated area, so we want to ensure what we have in there is of the best quality to ensure that protectionism to our delicate drinking water system. Putting the additional cathodic protection in there as well, again, alleviates some of those issues that we've been seeing around town with the pitting and everything and the water leaks we're seeing. This just adds another level of security, again, so that we will have a more dependable water system for this small little stretch. It's the stretch just west of 60th Street that will be done as ductile iron.
Okay. And the other question just on road widening, part of that I'm assuming is building a base. When we eventually have a roundabout there, will that base still form part of that construction, or will this effort that we're making now to make it a little better be, call it, wasted in the future in terms of having to be torn up again?
No, we are ensuring whatever we do today, as much as possible, will be reused. We foresee pretty near all of it. There's always going to be a little bit of trimming here and there. I can't guarantee 100% will be used again, but the vast majority certainly will be.
Okay, and I'll pause on my questions right now.
Sure. Councillor Payne and then Iwanicki.
I'm not sure if my questions are appropriate for this conversation. You had to know these questions were gonna come. But you know, being very unusual, I have an enormous amount of respect for Mr. Brox and what he brought up. I'm made very uncomfortable by a comment that was made about this situation, the sanitary trunk main, and jeopardizing the possibility of the partnership with the school site. I feel like that needs to be addressed before I feel comfortable doing any of this right now. So if that means this conversation has to end and go in a different direction, I feel like I don't want to go an inch forward until I understand better some of the comments made by Mr. Brox.
Sure. Ms. Phillips.
Director Khan, I'm not sure if you want to speak to this or you'd like Mr. Boudreau? Or Mr. Yi?
I can give some points on Mr. Brock's comments today. So, in fact, the town has contacted the Lebanon development through our consultant. And we have discussed this additional right-of-way required for the dumping of the material from the trench and backfilling. But the owners of Lebanon development, he straight away denied that giving that access to the town by referring a totally different issue, tying it with this land that we were requiring. So in that situation, we put a clause in the contract that nobody will be using any extra land outside the premises of the 21 meter. So to be fair with all the contractors, because one of the contractors is related to Lebanon development, and we don't want to give any unfair advantage to that relative to the owner of the Lebanon development. So now what we have is a fair cost for all the contractors that bid on that project. That's one aspect. As far as negotiation is concerned, we are open to discussion with the Lebanon development after award of the tender, not before, because according to the contract law, we cannot negotiate unless we have awarded this contract. Otherwise, we have to negotiate with all these contractors, and which will create a big mess for us.
Councillor Iwanicki and then Ostindi for questions.
I was just going to echo what Councillor Payne was saying. It caused me pause to hear someone such as Mr. Brox bringing up these concerns. And I tried reviewing the executive summary and the report to identify precisely what it was he was talking about this $500,000 in dirt being moved or whatever. I don't think necessarily that level of granular detail has to be included in a tender, but when he's aware of it and he's saying he spoke with the developers in the area and they're concerned that the tender award and the project as proposed is going to cause problems for the school, I immediately am hitting the brakes in my mind, because anything that could even vaguely impact that school site being developed promptly, I want an answer to. And the answer may be, his concerns are inflated for XYZ reason, but I'm concerned about making a decision on the fly of something that could have such a dramatic impact. So my question, sorry, that was a little bit of a comment, and then the question is more like, what conversations have we had with Lebanon, because they're not one of the contractors to bid on this project, about the impact for the project on the school site itself?
Sure, sorry, yeah. Just want to make sure you're finished with your statement. Am I coming through now? There you go, that's better. That was weird. Yes, so I'll elaborate a little bit of what I can about the conversations with Steve Bonci, the Laybon developer. It is not uncommon for a town to use, we'll say, a third party, their engineers, to contact others to help negotiate lands or other means to sort of move projects forward to aid us with these items. Aptus Engineering is very experienced in this. They've been doing this for decades and with great success. And on our behalf, they did approach the Laybon developer, Steve Bonci, on several occasions. He was very well aware of what we're doing. We've been talking about this for a very long time. And when approached, his reaction was shocking on our part. We did not see that coming. But at the same time, he was very clear in his unwillingness and unwantingness to discuss this any further with the town of Swivel Lake. He stated clearly he will not answer any phone calls from us from this point forward. So he basically put his foot in the sand and made it very clear that he was not willing to grant us any means for extra land in order for the project to move forward more efficiently. Regrettably as that sounds, we had to put in an amendment within our tender process to ensure that there was clear and transparent communication through all so that it was an equal project.
Sure, Ms. Phillips.
I'd like to recommend we go into closed for, I don't know the new ones.
Okay.
Third party business interests?
Sure.
That'd be right. Sorry, I don't know the new ATIA ones. I should have that in front of me.
That's okay. Councillor Mearns, would you like to make us a motion? Understanding you'll just generally state this.
Yeah, I make a motion that we go into closed session under TIA numbers that will come
We'll get the
forward.
numbers, yeah.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Councillor Iwanicki, we will send you a new meeting link right away here. Councillor Johannesson?
I move that closed session concludes and we revert back to the regular meeting of council.
Great. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Would someone like to make a motion? Councillor Payne.
I move to defer the decision on AIR 1398 until the council meeting 2 weeks from now.
Great. Motion on the floor. Is everyone clear? All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Council, we're past 7 o'clock. Is someone interested in making a motion to continue? Councillor Bilodeau?
Make a motion that we go past 7.
Sure. We will all vote on that motion. All those in favor? And opposed? Council, our meeting is concluded. Our agenda items will move to either a special meeting or the next regular meeting. Thank you.